Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Carly Corinthos had never considered herself the kind of woman who lingered in shadows to pick up pieces of other people's conversations, yet that night she found herself doing just that. The Metro Court was quieter than usual, an unusual lull between the bustling dinner service and the late-night crowd that often filled the lobby. She had been heading toward the back hallway to check on some paperwork she had left in her office when she caught a flash of movement. The familiar voice of Britt Westbourne drifted toward her from around the corner, low and urgent in tone. Carly paused instinctively, telling herself it was nothing, that she had better things to do than listen in on Britt's personal matters. But then another voice answered Britt, a man's voice she didn't recognize, deep and clipped, the kind of voice that sent a chill down her spine. Something in the tension of Britt's words stopped Carly in her tracks. It wasn't idle chatter. It was the type of conversation people weren't meant to overhear, and that was exactly why Carly pressed her back against the wall and stayed quiet. From her hidden spot, Carly could only make out fragments at first. Britt's voice was shaky, defensive, as if she were arguing with someone she didn't trust but had no choice but to tolerate. "You don't understand the risk, if anyone finds out," Britt hissed, her tone sharp but colored with a hint of fear. The man's reply was calm, almost mocking, as if her panic amused him. "It's already too late to worry about that," he said. Carly leaned closer, straining to hear every syllable. She wasn't usually one to meddle in Britt's life, but her instincts told her this was more than some personal drama. There was a weight in Britt's words, something that reeked of danger and secrecy. Carly's pulse quickened, and she forced herself to remain silent, though every part of her wanted to march in and demand answers. As the conversation continued, it became clear Britt was holding on to a secret so dangerous that even speaking about it in hushed tones seemed to rattle her. She mentioned names Carly could barely catch, whispers of ties to people who shouldn't still have influence in Port Charles. The man warned her about betrayal, hinting that there would be consequences if she failed to deliver something he expected. Carly's mind spun, trying to piece together what it could mean. Britt, who had been trying to build some semblance of stability in her life, was now caught up with a man whose presence alone carried menace. Carly thought about all the chaos that had followed Britt since she returned to town, the shadows of Caesar Faison, her history with Peter August, and the endless danger that surrounded her family. Could this be another ghost from that past? Or was it something entirely new? The urge to reveal herself was nearly overwhelming, but Carly bit it back. If she stepped out too soon, she risked scaring them off and losing the chance to fully understand what was going on. She stayed still, her breath caught in her chest as the mysterious man lowered his voice, speaking words Carly barely made out. "No one can know the truth about him." That line froze her. Him? Who was he talking about? And why did Britt sound as though she had been keeping something locked away for months? Carly's thoughts immediately jumped to Jason, to the unresolved pieces of his disappearance and presumed death. A pang of grief hit her, sharp and raw, but she quickly shoved it aside. She needed clarity, not emotion clouding her judgment. Britt's answer was filled with a desperation that made Carly's skin prickle. "I never wanted this, but you're forcing my hand." If Carly, or anyone else, finds out, Britt stopped herself mid-sentence, as though even saying Carly's name aloud risked exposure. Carly's stomach twisted at the realization that Britt was terrified of her finding out something specific. It wasn't just idle worry. Whatever Britt and this stranger were keeping under wraps was directly tied to her. The revelation felt heavy in the air, an invisible weight pressing down on Carly's chest as she tried to steady her breathing. The man chuckled, the sound dripping with cold amusement. "Then make sure she never does. You know what's at stake." The words landed like a threat. Carly closed her eyes briefly, steadying herself against the wall. She was in deeper than she thought, listening to something that could explode in her face if she didn't tread carefully. She had been in countless dangerous situations before, but this was different. This wasn't mob territory, or a business deal gone wrong, or family drama spilling over. This was something darker, more personal. When Britt's voice cracked as she whispered, "If this gets out, everything will change," Carly knew she had no choice but to keep listening. Her heart pounded with equal parts dread and determination. Whatever secret Britt was guarding so fiercely, it was connected to someone Carly cared about, and she wasn't about to walk away now. The stakes had just been raised, and Carly Corinthos wasn't the kind of woman to back down when the truth was within reach. Carly forced herself to remain still, though her body was practically vibrating with the urge to march into that hallway and confront both Britt and the stranger head-on. Every instinct screamed at her to demand answers, to tear the truth from them before it slipped away. But deep down, Carly knew the wiser move was patience. If she charged in now, Britt would deny everything, and the man would vanish into thin air before she could even put a name to his face. Carly had played this game before, she understood the power of timing. So she gritted her teeth, clenched her fists at her sides, and kept her ear turned toward the conversation. The man's voice lowered again, though Carly could still make out the disdain in his tone. "You've been dragging your feet, Britt. We don't have time for hesitation." He's already asking questions, and it won't be long before others start connecting the dots. Britt exhaled shakily, and the sound echoed in the hallway, heavy with dread. "You think I don't know that? I'm the one putting everything on the line here. You have no idea what it's like, carrying this secret, knowing it could destroy lives." Carly's heart hammered harder with each word. A secret that could destroy lives. That wasn't the kind of phrasing you used for something trivial. Her mind raced through possibilities. Was it about Jason? Was it about Drew? Could it be tied to Sunny somehow, or even Nina? Carly struggled to push her own biases aside, but every scenario led to the same conclusion: whatever Britt was hiding, it was monumental, and Britt was desperate to keep it buried. The man gave a humorless laugh, sharp as broken glass. "Lives are already destroyed, Britt. You're just trying to keep the fallout from hitting too close to home." Carly leaned forward, straining to hear the rest, but there was a long pause. She imagined Britt's expression, the worry lines that creased her forehead, the way her eyes darted when she was cornered. Carly knew Britt wasn't easily shaken, yet right now she sounded rattled to the core. Finally, Britt muttered, "If anyone finds out who he really is, it'll all come crashing down." Carly nearly gasped, biting down on her lip to silence herself. Who he really is. Those 4 words circled in her mind like vultures. Someone's identity was being concealed, someone important enough that Britt and this stranger were conspiring to keep the truth hidden. And Carly couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about just any random man in Port Charles. No, this was someone close, someone whose true identity would shift the ground beneath them all if it ever came to light. The stranger's reply was swift, firm, and unforgiving. "Then you'd better make sure it never does. Protect the secret, no matter the cost. Because if Carly Corinthos figures this out before we're ready, it won't just be your life on the line." Carly's breath caught in her throat at the sound of her name. He had said it with such conviction, as though Carly herself were the greatest threat to their scheme. The hair on the back of her neck prickled, and for a split second, she considered slipping away before they realized how close she was. But she couldn't, not now. They had confirmed it. This wasn't paranoia or speculation. Carly was directly tied to whatever Britt was hiding, and if they were this desperate to keep her out of the loop, then she needed to know the truth more than ever. Britt's voice quivered with barely contained emotion. "You don't understand. Carly isn't someone you can just neutralize. If she gets wind of this, she won't stop until she tears the whole thing apart." A hollow silence followed, and Carly could practically hear the smirk in the man's tone when he finally responded. "Then maybe it's time we start considering permanent solutions." A chill raced down Carly's spine. Permanent solutions. The words rang with unmistakable menace. Was he suggesting what she thought he was? Her stomach twisted violently, and she had to press a hand against the wall to steady herself. This wasn't just about secrets anymore, this was about survival. And if this man truly saw her as an obstacle, then Carly's life could very well be in danger. Still, she refused to back down. Fear had never stopped her before, and it wouldn't now. Instead, Carly's resolve hardened. She needed to find out who this man was, what connection he had to Britt, and more importantly, who the mysterious he was that they were protecting. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was about Jason, that somehow, someway, he was tangled in this web. But another part of her whispered that maybe she wasn't prepared for the answer. Because if Jason was alive and Britt had known all this time, Carly didn't know if she could ever forgive her. The conversation ended abruptly, footsteps echoing as the man shifted. Carly's pulse spiked. Were they leaving? Was he about to walk right past her? She pressed herself tighter against the wall, willing the shadows to keep her hidden. She caught a fleeting glimpse of movement out of the corner of her eye, but the angle made it impossible to see his face. All she noticed was the sharp scent of expensive cologne, the kind that lingered long after someone walked away. Britt trailed after him, her voice lowered, too hushed now for Carly to catch. Within moments, the sound of the door at the end of the hallway closing left Carly alone, her mind reeling. She finally exhaled, her chest heaving with the weight of what she had just overheard. She had more questions than answers, but one thing was certain, Britt Westbourne was hiding something explosive, and a dangerous man was pulling strings in the background. And Carly had just become a target in a game she hadn't even realized she was playing. Carly stood in the hallway for a long time after Britt and the stranger had gone, her body taut with adrenaline, her thoughts spinning in 1,000 directions. Her instincts screamed at her to march after them, to demand the truth in the only way Carly Corinthos knew how, direct and unrelenting. But even she had to admit that would be reckless. She had no proof, no leverage, only half-heard words that left more questions than answers. Whoever that man was, he was dangerous, and if Britt was so rattled, then whatever they were covering up was serious enough to cost lives. Carly had learned long ago that patience, while not her strong suit, could sometimes be her greatest weapon. So instead of charging in blindly, she vowed to play it smart. Her first step was simple: get a look at Britt. Carly slipped out of the hallway and into the lobby, positioning herself casually near the bar, pretending to skim through her phone. Minutes later, Britt emerged from the back corridor, her expression a mask of forced calm. But Carly, who had made a career of reading people's tells, saw through it immediately. Britt's shoulders were tight, her lips pressed together as if holding back words she didn't dare speak. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like someone expecting to be followed, before slipping quickly out the front doors. Carly wanted to chase after her, but she forced herself to remain still. If she pressed too hard, she risked losing the advantage she had just gained. Better to watch and wait until she had something concrete. Still, her resolve didn't ease the gnawing tension in her gut. As soon as she returned to her office, Carly paced the room, replaying every word she had overheard. The phrases burned into her memory: if anyone finds out who he really is, make sure Carly never does, permanent solutions. The way the man had said her name lingered in her mind like smoke from a fire, acrid and suffocating. She had been in countless dangerous situations, but this one was different. This wasn't just about business, or rival families, or even old grudges. This was personal, and Carly hated the feeling of being a step behind. Her thoughts circled back to Jason. She couldn't shake the possibility that he was at the heart of this. Everyone had told her to accept his death, to move on, but deep down she had never fully believed it. Jason Morgan didn't just disappear. And if there was even the slightest chance that he was alive, being hidden away, then Carly needed to know. Britt had once been close to him, and Carly had always suspected she knew more than she let on. The idea that Britt might have been guarding a secret about Jason all this time was like a knife twisting in her chest. It wasn't just betrayal, it was unforgivable. But Carly also knew she couldn't let her emotions cloud her judgment. Jumping to conclusions without facts would only weaken her position. She needed evidence, something tangible she could use to corner Britt into telling the truth. And for that, she would need help. A short list of names ran through her mind, people she could trust to dig, to snoop, to keep their mouths shut. Spinelli, of course, was at the top. If anyone could track down information on Britt's mysterious companion, it was him. She also considered reaching out to Drew. He had resources, connections, and his own reasons to want answers, especially if Jason was involved. But involving Drew also meant risking that he would try to shield her, and Carly didn't want protection. She wanted the truth. Her phone buzzed suddenly, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from an unknown number, and Carly's blood ran cold when she read the words, "Curiosity kills, Carly. Stop digging before it's too late." Her fingers tightened around the phone as rage surged through her. Whoever the man was, he already knew she had been close enough to overhear something. That meant he had eyes everywhere, or Britt had tipped him off. Carly's anger burned hotter at the thought. No one threatened her and got away with it. Still, the warning only confirmed what she already knew: she was in dangerous territory. But Carly Corinthos had never been the kind of woman to back down when threatened. If anything, it fueled her determination. Whoever this man was, whatever secret Britt was keeping, they had just made a fatal mistake by underestimating her. Carly slipped her phone into her purse, her jaw set with resolve. She wasn't going to wait for answers to fall into her lap. She was going to hunt them down, piece by piece, until the truth was hers. And when she finally uncovered what Britt had been hiding, there would be no going back. As the night wore on, Carly made her way upstairs to her suite, though sleep was the last thing on her mind. She stared out the window at the lights of Port Charles, her reflection staring back at her, fierce and unyielding. Somewhere in this city, a man she didn't know had marked her as a threat. Britt was tangled in a web of lies, and at the center of it all was a secret powerful enough to alter everything. Carly's lips curved into a determined smile. They thought they could scare her into silence, but they had forgotten one very important fact: Carly Corinthos didn't scare. She fought. The next morning, Carly was up before dawn, restless energy coursing through her like caffeine. She had barely slept, her mind too occupied with the fragments of Britt's conversation and that ominous text. As the first light of day crept into her suite, Carly made herself a silent vow: she wasn't going to waste a single moment. Whatever Britt was hiding, she would find out. The truth might be tangled in shadows, but Carly had never been afraid of walking straight into darkness if it meant protecting the people she loved. Her first call was to Spinelli. Carly didn't waste time with pleasantries when he answered, groggy and surprised. "I need you to do some digging," she told him, pacing across the room. Last night at the Metro Court, Britt Westbourne met with a man. Tall, deep voice, smelled like he bathes in expensive cologne. "I didn't see his face, but I need to know who he is and why he's mixed up with her." Spinelli, to his credit, didn't ask why Carly was suddenly suspicious of Britt. He knew better than to doubt Carly's instincts. Instead, he promised to start searching surveillance footage and tracing any digital breadcrumbs. Carly hung up feeling slightly calmer, though her nerves still thrummed like live wires. Next, she headed down to the Metro Court dining area. She knew Britt wouldn't be reckless enough to show her face here so soon after last night, but Carly wasn't looking for Britt, she was looking for patterns. Staff noticed things. Guests overheard scraps of conversation. Carly prided herself on running the Metro Court like a well-oiled machine, but that also meant she had eyes and ears in every corner. Over breakfast, she casually asked her servers if Britt had been around. One young waitress shifted uncomfortably, finally admitting she'd seen Britt meeting a man in the bar 2 nights ago, a man who had paid cash and avoided eye contact. Carly thanked her with a smile, though inside her suspicion grew. Whoever this man was, he wasn't some casual acquaintance. He was careful, deliberate, and that made him dangerous. Later that afternoon, Carly spotted Britt at General Hospital. She had gone there under the guise of checking in on a charity project, but truthfully, she wanted to see Britt in her own environment. When Britt emerged from the elevator, white coat on, hair pulled back, she looked every bit the competent doctor. But Carly noticed the faint shadows under her eyes, the tension in her jaw. Britt was rattled, even if she was trying to hide it. Carly watched from a distance as Britt barked quick instructions to a nurse before slipping into her office. For a moment, Carly considered barging in. The thought of confronting Britt directly sent a thrill through her veins. But she hesitated. The stranger's warning text was still fresh in her mind. If she revealed too much too soon, Britt might shut down, deny everything, or worse, run straight to that man and tell him Carly was onto them. No, Carly had to be smarter. Instead, she lingered in the hallway, noting which files Britt carried, which calls she answered, how jumpy she seemed whenever her phone buzzed. Carly had played this game long enough to recognize the signs of someone guarding a secret too heavy to carry. That night, Carly received an update from Spinelli. His voice was low and uneasy as he said, "You're right, Britt has been meeting with someone." Security cameras caught glimpses, but the guy's good at keeping his face hidden. Baseball cap, sunglasses, avoiding angles. But I tracked his movements when he left the Metro Court. He drove a black SUV with tinted windows, untraceable plates. That's not random, Carly. That's deliberate. Carly's grip on the phone tightened. Did you get anything else? Anything useful? Spinelli hesitated, then added, the SUV was seen near the pier later that night. That's usually mob territory. The word mob sent a chill through her. For a second, her thoughts veered toward Sonny, but she quickly dismissed it. Sonny had his flaws, but he wouldn't sneak around with Britt, and he wouldn't let anyone threaten her like that. No, this was someone else. Someone who knew how to operate in the shadows, how to cover tracks. And that made them even more dangerous. By the time Carly ended the call, her path was clear. She couldn't sit back and wait for answers. She needed to confront Britt, not with wild accusations but with enough pressure to make her slip. Carly knew how to push buttons, how to corner someone until they cracked. And Britt, no matter how strong she tried to appear, wasn't immune. The next time they crossed paths, Carly was going to make sure Britt understood one thing: the truth always came out, and Carly Corinthos would stop at nothing to uncover it. As she lay in bed that night, the city quiet outside her window, Carly turned the words over in her mind again: if anyone finds out who he really is. Her gut told her the secret wasn't just big. It was earth-shattering. And if she was right, the next move she made could change everything in Port Charles forever. The following day, Carly spotted Britt in the Metro Court lobby. It was almost too perfect, as if fate had placed her there. Britt was seated at one of the corner tables, staring down at her coffee cup as though it held all the answers she was searching for. Carly's pulse quickened, her instincts telling her this was the moment to make her move. She squared her shoulders, smoothed her expression into something deceptively casual, and approached the table with the kind of confident stride that left no room for avoidance. Britt, Carly greeted, her voice even but carrying a note of authority. Britt looked up, startled, her eyes flashing with something she tried to disguise as irritation. Carly, she replied curtly, pushing her cup aside. What do you want? Carly slid into the chair across from her without asking permission. Oh, you know me. I like to keep an eye on my guests. Make sure everyone's comfortable. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her tone. Though from where I'm sitting, you don't look very comfortable at all. Britt stiffened, her jaw tightening. I had a long shift at the hospital. Not that it's any of your business. Carly tilted her head, studying her. Maybe. Or maybe it's something else. Like meeting mysterious men in hallways when you think no one's watching. Britt's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she quickly masked the reaction. I don't know what you're talking about, she said flatly. But her voice lacked conviction, and Carly immediately smelled blood in the water. See, that's the thing, Carly continued smoothly. I was in the back hall last night. I heard you, Britt. You weren't exactly whispering. Sounded like you've got a secret that could blow this town wide open. And you're very worried about me finding out. Britt's hand tightened around her coffee cup until her knuckles turned white. You had no right to eavesdrop, she snapped, her voice cracking slightly under the pressure. Carly smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Maybe not. But I did. And now I know enough to realize you're hiding something dangerous. So the question is, are you going to tell me the truth, or do I have to drag it out of you piece by piece? For a moment, Britt looked like she might get up and storm away. But Carly's unflinching stare pinned her in place. Britt let out a sharp breath, shaking her head. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, Carly. This isn't about you. Oh, it's about me, Carly countered immediately. He said my name, Britt. That man you were with, he said it like I was the problem. Like I was the one who could ruin everything. Now, you explain to me why my name is coming out of some stranger's mouth while you sit there looking like you're about to break. Britt's eyes darted away, her defenses cracking, though she remained silent. Carly leaned closer, her tone low and dangerous. Let me spell this out for you. I've dealt with mobsters, kidnappers, psychopaths, and liars. You think some secret is going to scare me off? No. But what will get me going is knowing that you're hiding something that puts my family, or me, at risk. So either start talking, or I will find out another way. And trust me, you won't like how I go about it. Britt's lips parted as though she wanted to protest, but the words died in her throat. Carly saw the fear flicker in her eyes, and for once, it wasn't the fear of Carly herself. It was fear of something bigger, something Britt couldn't control. Finally, Britt muttered, "You need to leave this alone. Please, Carly. For your own good." Carly sat back, her expression hardening. That's not an answer. That's a warning. And if you think I'm the kind of woman who walks away from a warning, you don't know me at all. The tension between them was thick, and for a few beats, neither woman spoke. Britt's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her bag, shoving her things inside. She stood abruptly, muttering something about having to get back to the hospital. Carly didn't stop her. She watched as Britt practically fled the lobby, her shoulders tense, her movements rushed. But Carly wasn't discouraged. In fact, she felt more certain than ever that she was closing in. Britt's panic confirmed everything. There was a secret, a man behind it, and Carly was at the center of the storm. Whatever Britt was so desperate to keep hidden, Carly would tear it out into the open if it was the last thing she did. As she rose from the table, Carly pulled out her phone and sent Spinelli a new message: "Double your efforts. I don't care how careful this guy is, we find him. Today." Because now, it wasn't just about curiosity. It was personal.